Check, check, check. 1, 2. This is Mike Mines in the house again, man. As my boy Dak used to say, here we go. Yeah, I got um, special guest today, but before I introduce it to him, I just want to go on and say that the reason for me bringing this particular subject up is because I experienced circumstance with an employer, man, and I didn't properly prepare, and protecting myself. So in result, them same things that I should have written down or documented came back up to bite me, in the butt, and the end result was a termination. So, with that being said, man, I thought I would bring forth some victuals you can eat from the table and get full off of. Use it for your protection in case you might encounter such. But without further ado, I'm gonna introduce my guy, man, Jaquez Roy, man, the employee relations specialist, kind of well tuned in, how to operate, in the work environment. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce him, man. Give us a little bio of yourself, man.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me on this podcast. This is an honor and experience, and I'll take it lightly. Uh, I came from another organization as the PM director. I did that for 7 years and earned my master's degree in business administration with a concentration in human resource, and found an opportunity to go to Cherry Street Mission, where I'm currently working now, and just been growing and learning a lot. This role has taught me about the importance of protecting not only the organization, but ensuring that the staff is treated with fairness and dignity and honor. And that's the overall opinion of mine, that if we're protecting the biggest asset, which is our staff, then we're ultimately winning the war in protecting the organization. So
Okay, well, what I mean, again, man, information is always good, especially that can keep you prolonged at your job, or protect you against anything that prohibits you from moving forward at your position. First of all, man, I got to ask you, man, what got you started in this career?
that's a great question. So, as I mentioned before, when I worked at this other organization, I started going to school for business, and I was looking at entrepreneurship, finance, just management, just a general viewpoint of business. And I took my first course in HR, which was talent relations. And what drew me into that was I started seeing the change in how HR was viewed. They were no longer just compliance managers, they were no longer just police of the organization. They were moving towards a more strategic role when they started talking about culture and retention and turnover. And they were now being invited to the table more. And so it wasn't just someone that they go to say, I'm having a problem with this employee, or we need to deal with this, or can you rewrite the handbook? They were more involved in saying, what do you think that we can do to build morale, to build a culture? And so that's what drew me into that field. And as I worked at the other organization, I started to see that I was enjoying bringing these employees.
Thank you, man. Okay, a little bit more in depth. Tell me, man, what does being an employee relations specialist entail?
So this particular role is not new. It's not something that's made up. It's an actual role, and they are considered the liaison for the employee. They are the bridge between the employee and management to help them resolve issues or conflicts that might go on in the workplace. So if I couldn't get to my manager or my supervisor, I can come to the employee relations specialist and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is some things that's happening. How do you help? Can you help me resolve it? And then the employee relations would kind of go into these rooms and say, hey, I just talked to this staff member and these are their concerns. They weren't comfortable speaking them up, or they didn't get an opportunity to speak to you. What can we do to resolve this issue? So the employee relations specialist, it just basically is trying to do what I call damage control, try to make sure that everybody is at the table being heard. And the employee relations specialist role is not an easy role. It's a very difficult role because you have to be mindful of protecting the integrity of the role, but also ensuring that you're not hiding a lot from the employees. So you have to balance it. And one of my biggest issues that when I was getting into this role was learning how to be more discreet, like understanding what should be shared and what shouldn't be shared. Because I come from a role of advocacy. I'm always thinking of how can I build the team up and how much can I share with them? Because before I would share everything, but now it's like we have to share what we can and then but give that support to the staff member at the same time. So it is a tug of war because management might think you're
Okay. Well, yeah, man, you know what I mean? Like I said, I hate to. In fact, I'm not gonna even disclose, the company or the company's name or either of the people that would be kind of unprofessional. However, I do know that we have some companies out here that do not believe in being accountable for the things they do, what I mean, or the punishments or particular obstacles they present for its employees. So, with being a better person, I will keep that under the wraps for now. But do know, man, with with Ohio being an at will state, meaning they can let you go at the drop of a dime without any excuse. You know what I mean? But think we should all be aware of that. We should be able to protect ourselves. You know what I mean? No, and what I mean by being protecting ourselves, I'm saying, having an arsenal of documentation or whatnot. You know what I'm saying, to support, any accusation they may make against your duties or responsibilities. I guess that's going to take me to the next question, which is, what have you to offer others seeking, a career in human resources or employee relations specialist?
that is a great question. I was thinking about that on the way here. The advice that I can give a person that's looking into that type of career in HR, whether it be payroll, benefits, employee relations specialist, or even just a director of HR, you really want to have a heart to serve and a heart that is going to bring up like out of curiosity. So you want to have a heart of curiosity. You have to learn how to understand that you're in a role that is ultimately protecting the company. Let's just call it that. Like you ultimately are required to protect the company, but at the same time, you want to be a lending ear to those that come to you. So for those who seeking this role, understand what it is and understand what it's not. So it's not a role now today, and a lot of HR reps might disagree, but it's not just a compliance role. It's not someone that comes in and tell people what to do all the time. It's more about how to collab, how to build a culture that is supportive and caring and kind and respectful. So if you are getting into that field or looking to get into that field, just come prepared to get all of that's coming to you because honestly, in the HR role, you're going to get it from both ways. You're going to get it from the management side and from the employee side because again, like I stated earlier, you could be, trying to be that bridge and the manager's like, well, he just off for the staff member or the staff might say, well, he still worked for the company, so I
Hmm.
don't trust him. So you just have to have this heart to continue to press forward. Even if this is the comment or a quote I quote to myself often is, even in the midst of rejection, uh, isolation, or even separation, continue to move forward. And that is the biggest thing in this role, because you're going to be rejected, you're going to be isolated, and then you're going to be separated most times. So, and you got to keep pressing forward all the time.
Well stated, man. Oh wow, quite articulate, I must add. I couldn't have done it better myself. Anyway, so what are some of the challenges you face, man, within that position?
The biggest challenge is trying to balance that integrity of the role, understanding that you are being trusted with a lot of information. I mean, a lot. And sometimes you're getting information that is not in the benefit of the employee. So, what I mean is that if you see or hear about a troubled employee and they're documenting that and they're doing everything right, but you want to go and tell this employee, like, hey, like, you might want to stop doing that because this, that, and the third, but you're being trusted not to reveal that. But then you have the employee come to you and say, "Man, what's going on? Why are they keep calling me to these rooms?" And you're trying not to give out the information, but you also want to respect them and be honest with them at the same time. So the struggle is balancing that, the role and the people side of it, because
Right.
my heart, and I'm learning in this role. Like I said, I've only been in this role for about a year and 6 months, so I'm learning that sometimes my heart cannot be the driving force. Like I can't always be driven by my emotions. So you have to balance it. And then you have to, another challenge is thinking about, are you ready to deal with the backlash of management and the staff? Like, are you
Gotcha.
ready to deal with what can come your way on that? So if you if you're one of these people that gotta be liked by everybody, that's probably not the road for you. But if you're an individual who is driven on just chaos, and not necessarily chaos, but just drama, and I want to put the hammer down, then it's probably not a road for you either. You have to have a balance of both,
Okay.
where you look at this side and that side.
So being impartial.
Yes,
Okay.
and sometimes it can be tough. I've been in those situations before where I'm like, I really want to protect the person, but I ultimately understand where managers are coming from,
Right.
and this is why it's important for your staff. And I know we're going to get into it later, but this is why it's important for the staff members to be more articulate in what they're doing, articulate better what they're doing, so they get clarity on what's really going on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Um, and overcoming your bumps and scrapes, you know what I'm saying? As uh, I want to say, man, most black men has went through some type of a bad period in their life, man. But in overcoming your bumps and scrapes, man, give me a principle that you live by that gets you through the day or get you through, a bad work day or, whatever the case, what is the principle you stand by?
For me, and I know this might sound cliche, but for me, it's remembering my why. Always thinking about my
Hmm.
why I got into this field, why I enjoy what I do. That's what keeps me moving.
Okay.
Because there are times where, again, I don't like the feeling where people are not looking at me in a positive way, where they think that I'm, every other HR rep they ever been around. I don't like that feeling, but I understand it comes with the territory. So
Okay.
for me to get through my days, even when I went through my bumps and scrapes, I still want to remember my why, because I know that this wasn't what God planned for me, but I know that it's going to work out in the end. So it's kind of the same way there. And what I'm learning is, sometimes when you're going through some tough stuff, that means you're getting ready to be elevated to some higher stuff. And it's
Come
going to
on
be
now.
even more drama, more fights and wars within yourself. So for me, it's just constantly remembering the why behind what I'm doing, because again, I truly enjoy just collabing with people and having conversations like we're having now, and working with different diverse people and learning what their perspectives are. So even if I do have a bad day, I'm looking at, like, this my why. I love what I'm doing, and I'm not going to let anybody deter that.
Okay. All right. I guess we're almost at the wraps of it, but kind of gave it up already, man. Yeah, when I gave the opening. But anyway, man, what are some of the protections an individual can, implement to protect himself against like the employers that, don't want to take accountability and blame you for, inaction or blame you for not being reliable or whatnot, whatever, not getting the duty done, so to speak.
That's a great question. And before I can even answer that, I want to definitely tell the audience this. When employers say that they're at will, right? Let's at will does not mean they can just fire you for anything. At will means they can just let you go, but it has to be a legal reason. It cannot be for discrimination. It can't be because you're black, you're white, you're a woman, you're gay, you're whatever. It cannot be for that. And if you feel like that's happening, you have grounds. What at will means is that, and it's two way too. So don't think that it's just the employee. You have the right to say I'm done too. You don't have to stay there. You don't really have to give a 2 week notice. Now it's common courtesy that employees been doing that, but it's not a mandatory thing.
Hmm.
So don't look at it like at will means they can just have their way with me. They don't, and they just can't do what they want. It has to be legal. Um, Most people don't do employ. I mean, from what my experience is, most of them don't enact the at will like that. They do a disciplinary progression before they just let people go.
Hmm.
But sometimes in your 90 days, that's grounds, to say I'm gonna let someone go. So I definitely want to clarify that. And then another piece is when you are in these situations where there's conflict happening, you want to make sure you document as much as you can, like through email or through conversations, like so when you're in that room talking to the HR rep or whoever's in the room, you can say, hey, I did email you on June 25th about this situation and you never got back with me. Or if you're in that room and they're thinking about terminating, you could say, well, what uh, policy did I violate? So break it down so that if you do feel like you've been discriminated against or you feel like you're being wrongfully terminated, you have all these arguments to pose to who you need to pose it to. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody to go and sue or anything like that, but I'm saying like you want to make sure you are protecting yourself because the company is going to protect them.
Hmm.
And so that's why they want to properly document too. And to answer your question, when an employee has not taken responsibility, it's really not. It's out of my hands now. I joke around in my current place, and I say I'm just kind of like the public defender that's trying to really get you the best deal possible. But if you want to go to trial and deal with my boss, then
Okay.
that's what happens. And
Okay.
so I'm trying to give you enough information so that you can make the best decision possible. But if you don't want to be accountable for that, to those employees who still feel like HR is not for them or they're against them, I want you to think about it this way. Look at a pie or a pizza and you own a piece of it. You may not own the whole thing. You may not even own 80% of it, but you might own 10%. Now look at your 10% and that what you can change. You can't change everything else around you. And so you want to be smart about it. So you want to ask intentional questions. But going back to that question, if you still think I'm not for you, then that's a personal thing with you. I can't do anything else about that. Like
Right.
I'm trying my hardest to help you, to give you the keys to the kingdom. And I often call it insider trading. People go to jail for that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So and this is where I was telling you about the struggling with understanding what to share and what not to share. I'm trying my best to give you a little bit without giving you too much
Gotcha.
so that you can make your own decisions now with the information I gave.
And that was a great analogy, man. You know what I mean, about being a lawyer, man. That was a good analogy. I will say, man, in bringing this topic up, I want to share that, man. As much, sometimes we can get instruction from individuals way younger than us, and we can take it and be like, "Man, what do you know?" But it was my son. It was like, "Dad," he said, "Man, if they ain't doing right, man, document it.
Yep.
Document it, man. Go if they ain't doing right by OSHA, document it, man. You know what I mean?" And I did not do it, man. I didn't do it. I wouldn't say I didn't take his word for, a pot of gold, but it's like I figured that I would get through it. And in the end, like I said, the end result was not in my favor. I wish I had, you know what I mean? Because there were quite a few instances, man, that it clearly they were at fault, and but they wanted to put the blame in my court. You know what I mean? So again, man, I just gave you, or shall I say, my brother here just gave you information, to arm yourself with. You know what I mean? Like you said, man, it gave you everything. Well, I won't say everything, but gave you bits and pieces to use. Um, again, we can be properly prepared for the situation. You know what I mean? So that when that situation or circumstance do arise, you can sit up and say, well, like you said, man, I emailed you here, or I did this, I came to your office and you turned me away. You know what I mean? I put that down on paper. Here it is right here. You got the evidence to show them such, man. But again, this has been helpful information to all who hears, all under the sound of my voice. You can't make an excuse now. Now you got, you didn't been given some insight on how to proceed. If you fumble the ball, that's again, man, that's on you. So again, before I end, I just want to say, man, thank you again, brother Roy, for coming and sharing that information. And I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more with you, man,
Yeah,
so that we
appreciate the
can,
feedback.
give back, man, what we've been fed. You know what I'm saying? Put that stuff back on the table for others to eat. You know what I mean? I want to give a shout out to my guy over there, Bertha Mays, man. Y'all know, man. I see y'all doing y'all thing over there, that old fried fish, man. Y'all go out there and check my guy out, man. And these other organizations around the city, man. It's, turning over $1. Entrepreneurs, man. Y'all go out there and strive, man. Y'all support us, man. Y'all support one another, man. Like I said, man, it don't cost nothing. It don't cost a dime, man, for us to uplift one another, man. With that, I'm being saying, I'm going to end on that note, man. And y'all stay blessed, man. This has been a 5 Ps and me production, man. Mike Mines, I'm out.